Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, we're out here doing a little content for you guys today. Yeah, it's Thursday, it's our day together again. And we're going to be talking about globes once more. That's right, we talked about Hot Blast or number O style globes last week. That's a nice day today. It's not too hot. It's fairly mild. Thought I'd light up one of these guys and sit out here and talk with you guys. Yeah, why not? That's nice. It's good stuff. Anyway, what's going on? Well, got some topics. Yeah. So last week we talked about number O tubular globes, specifically 98 globes, but that was kind of covering the tubular number O style globe in general. But we got some things to compare. We're going to talk about the cold blast globes. That's right. And what is it about cold blast globes? That's a good question. What about them? Why are they shaped the way they are? Why is it important to use proper globes and proper frames? Excuse me. Well, take it from someone who's got a little bit of experience. Just a little bit. I'll tell you what my experience is. And I hope you can learn from it, because I definitely learned. So, I once had a beautiful ruby, deep ruby globe, number O style, hot blast globe. Yeah. Got off of eBay for, I don't know, 15 bucks. But it was so dark, I call it my eclipse globe, because it seemed like you could hold it to the sun and you could watch an eclipse through it. Because it was so dark, it would be filtered and, you wouldn't lose your eyesight. But anyways, it wasn't that strong, but it was a joke. But anyway. Anyways, we lost that globe. And I'll tell you how. See, sometimes I see pictures of people putting hot blast globes in early, cold blast lanterns, and I will say it looks neat. It makes the lantern look earlier than it does, and than it really is. And it's a neat look. I'm not going to say it's not a bad look. It looks neat because they're fancy globes. They have more curve to them. They have more details than a regular cold blast globe, and I will illustrate the difference. This is going out. I don't know why. I just lit it. Anyway, we'll set this here for a second, and we'll finish our talk here. So I had this beautiful globe, dark ruby globe, and I put it in a Rayo number 77 cold blast, and it looked really neat because the dark patina and the dark red globe looked really cool. It looked great, and I burned it. I was burning it one night, not terribly high, medium height, nothing crazy. And well, I heard this dink. I'm like, oh no, that didn't sound good. What was that? What's that sound? So I looked around, and sure enough, there's like, on the hot blast globe in the Prisco, or the Rayo 77, which was made by Pritchard Strong, so you could call it a Prisco essentially. Anyway, so I'm like, oh no, because I had that globe and I put it in a lot of my different lanterns. It spent time in my crystal, it spent time in the OK, it spent time in some of my favorite square tube frames, right? At the time. Well, that cracked, and I was like, well, it wasn't expensive, and I know I probably can find another one on eBay. There's a lot of unmarked ruby hot blast globes on eBay. Yeah, at one time there used to be a lot. Now they're kind of a little more obscure. I think there's still a few, but they come and go, right? Anyhow, so I'm like, well, shoot, I guess I should just burn a cold blast globe in this lantern. So that's all I've been doing, is burning cold blast globes and cold blast lanterns, except for a few. And I'll tell you. This is kind of an interesting education that I come to know through experience. And we're going to talk about cold blast globes. And we'll pull one down here. Look at this Herwood. This old Herwood, you know, Aladdin. And the globe in it is a cold blast globe. That's right. So this shape, it's kind of bulbous. It's not a lot of taper, not a lot of, you know, upward, you know, fancy hot blast style, you know, curves to it. No, it's a cold blast. It's a nice globe. This is really nice. I do like it's got some nice waviness and imperfections in it, but it looks good in the Herwood. It actually fits it. The funny thing about these Herwood Aladdins, it takes a very specific size to fit it properly. And if it's a little short, you're going to see it. It's going to sit too short. If it's too tall, it won't close at all because it has to swing into place. But anyways, this shape came out right around 1900. And 1900 is kind of a, if you want to break into timelines, 1900 is pretty much the start of the cold blast generation. That's when a lot of cold blasts were being made largely by most stamping companies. Because prior to 1900, there really is only, I'm trying to think. Very few lantern companies were making cold blasts prior to 1900. I want to say that Berger made a few prior to 1900. They were pretty much on the cusp of 1900. Heck, some of their really cool, wild hot blasts came out in the very late 90s. But C.T. Ham was the pioneer in the cold blast design. They introduced their number 20, or what would become their number 20, Searchlight. That was a cold blast design. Their dash lanterns, their cold blast tubulars, all roughly came about 1890, 91, right around there. And I've seen some. And some of the guys I know have shared some with me. And they're really cool. And Ham was definitely a pioneer with the cold blast design. But they didn't have these globes at the time. First cold blast lanterns, well, you're going to make me get it down, aren't you? Yeah. Like this. So this is 1898, 99 CT Ham dash. But it has a hot blast globe. It has a number O style bullseye globe. Now, this globe is patented. It's got 2 patents on it. Let's see. Patent July 4, 1882. And November 1st of 1887. Now, those aren't CT Ham patents. I believe they are SG&L patents, and it's mostly because of the bullseye globe. That's all. Yeah. But anyways, this is a cool piece. This has got that little beaded detail on the chimney that I've mentioned many times before. And that definitely signifies this lantern predates 1900 by a very small margin. But it predates the cold blast globe. It does. And I do have an earlier cold blast. And it's right over here. Yeah. Let me get down here. There it is. This is the earliest cold blast lantern I own. This is the CT Ham patch corner pin lift. See? And you know, I just finished that other pin lift CT Ham. That one's a little later because it has the same chimney design as that Buckeye dash lantern, or the bullseye, you know, globed ham dash number 2. Anyways, this is 1895 to 6. So this is predating the cold blast globe by a long shot, by 5 years. All right, 4 or 5 years at least. But so when I first got this lantern, it had a cold blast globe because it's a cold blast lantern. So we all understand, we're like, well, you should put a cold blast globe in a cold blast lantern naturally. Well, this one's very early. It has rolled tubes with a solder seam, while the other one has crimped tubes like this. See how this Herwood has crimped tubes, you know, with the seam and a crimp, you know, they're crimped together. That's post 1900. So is the other one. It has those types of tubes, but this one has soldered, rolled, round air tubes, very similar to a one with all the joints and everything from the 1870s and 1880s. But it's very similar to that design. But it has the patch corners for rigidity and strength, and it's neat because they had to make these tubes and then bend them, and then they put these patches on the insides for strength and also just hiding the probably the unintentional crinkles from bending metal in that kind of a way. Anyhow, this is a very special piece. This is a very special lantern. It is, and I love this piece a lot. But this is the earliest cold blast, and it would have come with a number O globe. Now, I'll just set this down here while we're making the video. A little out of reach, and the bail wants to flop down, so I can't hang it on its little hook. But anyway, so very early cold blast lanterns from CT Ham came with a number O globe. That's what they did. And it wasn't until 1900 that the cold blast globe came out. And CT Ham, they predated it because they were pioneering. Charles Tafton Ham pioneered the cold blast design. And it wasn't until 1900 that a lot of the other companies said, hey, you know, there is something to this cold blast design. And so they started making it. Now, it could be that they weren't aware of it, or they didn't care to pioneer the cold blast design, or they didn't know how to get around patents. And that's probably it too. I'm not positive, and that's just an idea, but it's founded in, you know, reality. It makes sense if you know, CT Ham was always getting in trouble with Dietz with different patent infringements. Dietz was definitely very proactive of protecting their patents, and so Ham probably was as well, because it was their patents, and if they're going to do the cold blast, they're going to protect their interests and make sure people buy their cold blast. And that's what it is. That's what it all boils down to, is profits and money. And of course, you know, it's a company, it's a business. But you know, let's show you a few other little fun tidbits while we're sharing. So, you know, so many things. Anyway, so Dietz came around 1900 with their Dietz Blizzard, and this is a correct globe. This is a marked Blizzard globe. I know it's dark, it's hard to see, but it says, let's see here. Let's see. It says Dietz Cold Blast Blizzard, New York, USA. And this globe is the cold blast shape, just like this one. See, it's the same shape. And this dates to right about 1900. It has an 1899 patent date on it. So that's when Dietz really started pioneering the cold blast. You know, they adopted it. And I got another lantern way back here I want to share. Usually does it. I know. Be gentle, Rob. I am being gentle. They're metal. Come on. Anyways, Ham, they eventually came up with their own cold blast globe. Now, this is a little later. This one's the matchless. See? CT Ham cold blast matchless. Yeah. But it's the same shape as that Blizzard globe, right? It is. But the matchless, people have asked, what does that mean? What does it mean, matchless? I don't understand. Does it not take a match to light it? I'm kidding. No, it just means that the quality is unmatched. And Ham was high quality, and they wanted to make sure people understood that. It was matchless quality. So there you go. But first CT Ham cold blast globe just said it says Ham cold blast. That's all. And then by 1907, 1908, somewhere around there, then the matchless was added, and then the hot blast style of those globes of that same period were standard. Ham number O standard. Prior to that was Ham number O, or just Ham. Many early Ham globes just said HAM for Ham. So nothing too fancy. Ham globes, it's hard to date them because there was very few variations or patterns that they had made. But people do like the ones that say Ham number O tubular, that you can't go wrong with those. Those are pretty cool. But they're not that common. No, they're not. But anyways, so these cold blast globes are generous in shape. They're ideal. They came about because people were probably, most likely, cracking number O globes in their cold blast lanterns, because you have a number 2 burner and a wider flame that's creating a lot more heat than a number O lantern. And so prone to cracking for sure, because it was compromised. But yeah, anyway, the cold blast globe came about, and it revolutionized the cold blast lantern design, and it became more or less a standard. And you know, Dietz didn't really they didn't make cold blast globes for very long. No, because right around it gets a little tricky. I'd say 1910-ish, right around there, the fit-all globe came out. And they made, this globe that was kind of between a hot blast and between a cold blast. So it's essentially the same, but not as bulbous. It had a slight taper, and that's what we become to know as the fits-all shape. And the fit-all didn't have lock knobs, and then by 14 they patented the lock knob design, and it became the fits-all that we can find many places. But yeah, so cold blast globes was the first step towards standardizing globes for lanterns in general, hot blast or cold. And it wasn't until the fits-all design that lanterns became just, they didn't have specific globes. They just had that one style for both varieties. Now, of course, we're just talking about hot blast and cold blast tubulars. Now, railroad lanterns had different globes, and squat, tall, whatever. Speaking of squat globes, here's the good old Berger / Embry made our very best squat globe. This is from, I want to say 1912-13, right around there. And it's made by Berger, or tail end of Berger, right into the Embry era when they took over the accounts for Hibbard Spencer Bartlett and their Our Very Best brand. But with the globe on this, and we know this globe to be called a squat globe. This is a cold blast as well. This is a cold blast design globe. And now the squat globes were really only, they came about right around that time when squat globe lanterns became an experiment. And they thought, well, it would be nice to have something that's shorter with a bigger mouth that's easier to clean, and it's a little more compact. It's not as tall, and it might actually work better. And squat globe lanterns do make a lot of light. They do. Don't kid yourself. They are bright lanterns, and they do put out a good amount of light. And the squat globe design is really actually pretty cool. I kind of like it. It's grown on me. It wasn't always my favorite, but I like tall globe lanterns better. But anyways, squat globe is cool. It has a place in the history of tubulars. But yeah, it became very popular with the D-Light, the Wizard, the Little Wizard, the top lift D-Light, of course. The first generation D-Lights were the top lift design. I have one. And, then the Embry had a squat globe they came out with, and all that. And then so did everybody else. Everybody jumped on that squat globe bandwagon right around the early 1910s. 1912, 13, right around there, they all did. Defiance, Paul's, Embry, it goes on. And even Pritchard Strong offered one. Now, the number 100, Rayo number 100 was a squat globe, number 2 size. And they had a number 10, which was a squat globe, Little Wizard size. And Buell offered one as well. So they all kind of played with that squat globe, technology and design for about maybe 5 or more years, and then they just accepted it and became part of their product line. But yeah, it's kind of fun to look at the designs. It is. Thanks again for subscribing and coming by every Thursday, and sharing the content with your friends. I am very honored that I've done this as long as I have, and it's still fun. It's still fun to do it. So, that being said, take it easy, and we'll see you again next week. All right? See you then.